Hi, this is Joe Weston, and this is the fourth episode of my podcast, Pondering Perpetual Motion. It is the second part of my interview with Mike Skill of the Romantics. If you missed the first part, go back and listen to episode 3. Mike and I continue a wide-ranging conversation about music and his past and how he got to the point that he is today.
So you've seen a little bit of everything because you grew up during the period where people were kind of doing it DIY, and then when the Romantics were becoming bigger, you were, I'm sure you guys had a van, and you hopped in that van and you lugged your gear and you played every little bar and every little party and whatever you could get into. And then now you're back doing it DIY.
Yeah, when Romantic came up, the punk scene had just happened in '76, right around that time, and we just formed around 1976. And our first Hildicon, we wanted a record. Everyone was putting out a 45, a vinyl record. A lot of bands were putting them out on their own because labels were just out of control with these bands that were playing. A lot of groups were playing, and they played for 4 hours. The songs would go on for minutes, and kids wanted to get back to straight-ahead rock and roll and punk, whether it was punk pop or power pop or whatever you want to call it. It was a new group of young musicians coming up. They were tired of just hearing Led Zeppelin. Not that you didn't like it. It was just it was overplayed.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from Jimmy Page and Yardbirds and Led Zeppelin and that. And it was just getting repetitive. You heard only Kansas, Led Zeppelin, Six, and these were all usually really long songs, and they didn't have the quote-unquote bop of the Elvis or the Buddy Holly or the Everly Brothers or any of the Rolling Stones or Beatles harmonies or choruses to remember. These were long, drawn-out songs is what it became. When you give so much freedom, sometimes you go beyond what is necessary.
Yeah.
But artistically, you give yourself a little rules. Do rules if you can do stuff that it's really an art form to put a hit song in 2 or 3 minutes. It's an art form on itself to draw in people in that amount of time with a beat, a groove, and a melody. And that's what I always stuck to, is 3 chords, 4 chords, was simple, very straight head, simple music. Straight head, simple came to that when I grew up with.
Wow. I agree, because I that was a period when I was really forming my musical taste, and I had heard, and again, just like you, not criticizing these bands, Zeppelin and Kansas, and even I grew up being a Beatles fan, but when I started to hear all these people doing something just a little bit different and taking the form, and there was an energy to it, there was a passion to it that seems like, not that these other musicians weren't passionate, but it just seems like you were putting it on the vinyl. At the time that I found you guys, which was in the early 80s, people like Joe Jackson and the Police and the Stranglers and numerous other bands, the Cars. You would hear things like that, and it was all different, and it was incredibly exciting. It was, you could hear music being different. You could hear it. You could hear an energy to it. You could hear a message to it. And one of the things I loved about you guys was you brought that kind of regional feel to your music. I mean, there's a lot of Detroit sound in your music. There's a lot of soul sound in your music. And that's part of what I loved about what you guys did and what you do.
Since we grew up with Iggy Pop, Alice Cooper, Seeger, Mitch Ryder, Scott Morgan from a band called The Rationals, and Motown, you've got a lot to. That was the sidewalk you walked on. That music was the sidewalk you walked on, and it just went right into you. Being a working class town. And I worked in the auto shop. They had shops, small shops that had little parts for cars. We worked at that. Summers, you'd work all summer and go to school and again repeat it over. And during high school, and you buy your guitar, you buy your amplifier, and use your MC5, and Alice Cooper and Seeger playing down the street at a high school. Ted Nugent, I saw it Denby High School, and there were other bands, The Frost, which was Dick Wagner, who played on a lot of Alice Cooper records. It was Steve Hunter, who played with Mitch Ryder, who's on a ton of records. They played behind. Those two guys played on the first Aerosmith record and a lot of I think early Kiss records. They were studio musicians. They didn't list them on the record. And these were the guitar players and musicians I grew up with. And then Motown. And I had Motown when I was a kid in elementary school and junior high. Motown used to go to the junior high schools. After school, they'd both come up in a bus and early Motown, early. You're talking 64, 5, 6. They go to a school and they do a show, quick show, and then they go on to the next school, and this would be, crazy, That was our neighborhood record label. It was. I mean, and so it continued. I mean, that whole vibe continued right into the rock thing. People started making their own records, and there were smaller labels. There was these clubs called the Hideouts. The Hideout on the east side, and there was a Hideout on the west side. It was early teen club. I mean, and you had Bob Seger playing there, and the all-girl band, the Pleasure Seekers, which was Susie Quattro and their sisters. And so, the rich, it was a rich talent, a rich foundation of talent in the city. And it was like, so when you walk around looking like a guitar player or something, you weren't looking at weird. They figured you were in the band. I mean, any other place you go, sometimes that's not in the blood of the city. But we had to work our butt off in the factories, our parents, and that helped us out when we wanted drums or we wanted an amplifier, or we would go to work in the shops for the summer.
Wow. And you still are...
It was a smoky, dirty town at the time, in the 60s.
Yeah.
There was no air quality. It was awful. I mean, the waters and the air was, that changed in the 70s.
You're a hardworking guy, because we were talking that the Romantics have continued to tour all this time, and that, of course, COVID-19's brought that to an end, and it's given you a chance to really not take time off, but get in the studio and do some stuff for yourself that you've wanted to do. So how's all this affected you with the pandemic?
Well, put it this way: I'd be on the road. I'd leave, say, Wednesday or Thursday. I'd come into Springfield or something, and I'd be there for a night, and I'd go to sound check the next day, do the show, and either fly home or go to another show. We discarded buses for a while because it's way real expensive if you're only doing 3 shows, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, and then wait till the next week. You've got to pay for hotels, for crew, and so on. So we would just fly in. And so I was home, say, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So pretty much I'm kind of on the same scale, except it's 24 hours all the time. But it's changed. We're more in the house, around the house, working around the house. I'm playing guitar and keeping up on that, and I never stop playing. And we're, like everyone else, we're cleaning and doing the yard work and keeping our yard up. And across the street from us, there's someone building a house, and they've got piles and piles 6 feet high of branches, and we were afraid they were going to catch fire because there's downtown Portland. From Portland downtown, the forest goes right up to Portland, National Forest. So it just goes out from there, and we're 7 miles from downtown. So there's greenways, which is all forest. We have one next door and across the street, and this one area they had piles of stuff. We were afraid we were out there watering that pile of sticks and branches because they didn't move it when they were supposed to. But so we're stuff. I'll be in the studio Sunday locally. I'll wear masks and get a couple of air purifiers in there, and there will only be 2 or 3 people in the studio, and we'll be separated. I'll lay down guitar and bass, maybe drums. Drums for sure. With the tunes I do, I like to have the groove with the drums. You can do it with click track.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I send it to Detroit to my producer, and he might add keyboards, he might add percussion or something, and I'm going to get into Detroit eventually and finish up stuff with them, or not. I'll do it back here. But yeah, so it's not too different. I mean, I'm at home. I was a 9 to 5, 7 days a week, so 6 days a week. So it's just I'm not on the road. What's the
So let's tell people again about your new song, 67 Riot, where they can find that.
Well, it's on MikeSkill.com. It's I got Wayne Kramer to play guitar on it from the MC5. He's a friend. He came around Portland. He was doing a tour with MC50, 50 years of the MC5. And he had a lot of younger cats, a guitar player from Soundgarden, Dale, and a couple other guys got from the Gorillas.
Oh, really?
And other kind of punk hard rock grunge guys. And I went on stage to do a song with them, 2 songs with them, and then I had asked him, like I said before, I called him and he said yes. He listened to the song and he loved it, loved the song 67 Riot, and he played on it. And it's a wild guitar track he put on there, and it's really good. And it's all vinyl 45 artwork from the 60s era of 1967, because it's kind of a connection to look at every single by the MC5. It's got the same label with my name on it and Wayne's name on it, and then the artwork's all done by us, by a factory here with my son, Nick. He's an art major and a photographer and a
That's a good name. That's my son's name too. So
yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
Nick Skill. Nick Hangman Skill.
Yeah, that's a good name. So again, people can find that. People can find that through your website, which is MikeSkills.com, and they can also get that at all streaming locations. I've got a chance to hear it, and it's a really good song. And Mike, I just want to say thanks for all the trials and tribulations that we've got a chance to talk today. And maybe someday down the road we can talk some more about the Romantics. And I'd love to hear the story about how you hooked up with Brad Elvis. I was an Elvis Brothers fan. I was an Elvis Brothers fan. That's one of the first live shows that I went to see.
They opened for us for a few times, and Con Burke was playing with us, and he had to go on with Romantics for a while in the 90s. Yeah. And he had to go on the road, and he suggested Brad. He did Brad. So Brad came on, and he's been with us ever since, longest drummer we had. Good guy, and
I've got to see
the song on the flip side of 67 Right is My Bad Pretty, which is a really good one, and one before that is Not My Business. If you look up those songs, those are some other songs to listen to. Go to MikeSkill.com. Thanks, Joe.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I wanted to say too, I got a chance to meet Clem Burke many years ago when he played with Dramarama. And great, fantastic drummer. But Brad Elvis standing upright, I remember that distinctly. This was one of the first shows that I ever went to see. And I'm an Elvis Brothers fan. I'm a Romantics fan. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me.
Well, yeah, I'll probably see Brad sooner than I'll see the band, because we stay in touch a lot, and I've recorded some side things with him as well, him and his wife, Chloe. Great.
Thanks for listening. I'm Joe Weston, and this is my podcast, Pondering Perpetual Motion. I'll have another episode up in about 2 weeks.